Have you ever stopped to consider the absolute strangeness of the moment you are in right now? Think about it. If you were to stand up and walk 10 steps to your left, and then decide you didn't like it there, you could simply turn around and walk 10 steps back to the right. You would be exactly where you started. Space is forgiving. Space is navigable. In the dimensions of space, you have the freedom to move forward, backward, up, or down. But time is a completely different beast. Time is a prison with only one exit, and that exit is always pushing you forward. You cannot stand still in time. You cannot step left into yesterday or right into tomorrow to check the weather. You are dragged relentlessly from the past into the future at a rate of 1 second per second, with absolutely no ability to hit the brakes or the reverse button. To visualize this, imagine you walk into your kitchen and accidentally knock a carton of eggs off the counter. Smash! The shells crack, the yolks splatter, and a sticky yellow mess covers your floor. Now imagine you could press a rewind button on reality. You would see the yolk gather itself up, the shells reassemble perfectly around it, and the egg fly upward, landing gently back in the carton, pristine and whole. If you saw a video of that happening, you would immediately know it was fake. You would know instinctively that the video is being played backward. But why? Why does that seem so fundamentally wrong to our brains? Why is it that in the history of the entire universe, we have never, ever seen a shattered egg spontaneously put itself back together? This is the mystery of the arrow of time. It is the distinct feeling that time flows in one specific direction, from the past to the future. It gives us a sense of cause and effect. We remember the past, but we have zero memory of the future. We can influence what happens tomorrow, but we are powerless to change what happened 5 minutes ago. But here is where things get incredibly unsettling. This feeling of time flowing, it might be an illusion. Or at the very least, it is a massive contradiction to almost everything we understand about the fundamental laws of the universe. Because when we look deep under the hood of reality, at the atoms and particles that make up that egg, that floor, and your brain, the rules seem to suggest that time shouldn't have a direction at all. So why does the universe look so different when we play the movie forward versus backward? Why are we stuck on this one-way street? Here is the kicker. The universe, at its most fundamental level, does not seem to care about the past or the future. To understand why the broken egg scenario is such a headache for physicists, we have to zoom in, way in, past the yolk, past the shell, all the way down to the individual atoms that make up that egg. Let's imagine a different scenario. Picture a pool table. You shoot a white cue ball and it hits a red ball. The two balls collide, bounce off each other, and roll away in different directions. Now, imagine we filmed that collision and played it backward. What would you see? You would see two balls rolling toward each other, colliding, and rolling away. Here is the critical point. You would not be able to tell which version was real. The backward version looks perfectly natural. It obeys all the laws of physics. There is nothing impossible about balls moving in those directions. This is known as time reversal symmetry. Almost all the fundamental equations that describe our reality, from Isaac Newton's laws of motion to Albert Einstein's relativity, and even the Schrödinger equation in quantum mechanics, work just as well forward as they do backward. If you take the variable for time, t, in these equations, and replace it with negative time, minus t, the math still works out perfectly. This means that for an individual atom, there is no arrow of time. An atom doesn't grow old. An electron doesn't remember where it was yesterday. In the microscopic world, time is a two-way street. The particles that make up your body, your house, and the stars above are dancing a dance where the steps are completely reversible. So we arrive at a massive contradiction, perhaps the biggest paradox in our daily lives. We live in a macroscopic world, big stuff like eggs, cars, and people, that is undeniably irreversible. We age, coffee gets cold, and buildings crumble. Yet we are built entirely out of microscopic parts, atoms and particles that are reversible. How is this possible? How can a universe made of timeless, reversible building blocks build a reality that is so ruthlessly obsessed with moving forward? How do you get a one-way street out of a billion two-way streets? If the laws of physics don't distinguish between the past and the future, something else must be forcing time to march forward. Something that isn't about motion, but about mess.
The answer to this riddle wasn't found in the movement of planets or the behavior of light. It was found in the behavior of steam engines during the Industrial Revolution. The solution is a concept known as entropy, enshrined in the holy grail of physics, the second law of thermodynamics. The second law is arguably the most depressing law in physics. It states, quite simply, that in an isolated system, entropy, often described as disorder or randomness, will always increase or stay the same. It never goes down. Things fall apart. Coffee cools down. Iron rusts. Relationships fail. But why? Is there a cosmic force actively trying to destroy things? No, it's actually much simpler and stranger than that. It's not malice. It's just math. Specifically, it is the math of probability. In the late 19th century, an Austrian physicist named Ludwig Boltzmann realized something profound. He realized that the difference between the past and the future isn't a fundamental law of motion, but a matter of sheer statistical likelihood. To understand this, let's forget the egg for a second and imagine a deck of cards. If you buy a brand new deck, it comes in perfect order, ace to king of spades, then hearts, clubs, and diamonds. This is a state of low entropy, high order. There is essentially only one way to arrange the deck so it looks like this. Now, throw the cards in the air and pick them up. Is the deck still in perfect order? Of course not. It's a mess. Why? Did the universe force them to be messy? No, the universe just didn't care. Here is the logic. There is only one arrangement that looks like perfect order. However, there are 8 times 10 to the 67th, that's an 8 followed by 67 zeros, ways to arrange the cards in a messy order. Every time you shuffle, you are essentially sampling a random arrangement. What are the odds you will randomly shuffle the deck back into its original perfect order? It is technically possible, but it is so statistically unlikely that you could shuffle the deck every second for the entire age of the universe and never see it happen. This is the arrow of time. Time moves forward because there are simply more ways to be messy than there are to be organized. Let's go back to our broken egg. State A, whole egg. The atoms must be arranged in a very specific, tight structure to create the shell and the yolk. There are very few ways to be a whole egg. State B, broken egg. The atoms can be scattered on the floor in a billion different patterns. A little to the left, still a broken egg. A little to the right, still a broken egg. When the egg falls, nature is simply moving from a state of low probability, order, to a state of high probability, disorder. This completely changes how we view reality. The flow of time is actually an illusion created by the march of probability. We are constantly moving from unlikely states to likely states. But this explanation creates a massive, looming problem, a problem that takes us back to the very beginning of everything. Think about it. If entropy is always increasing, if the universe gets messier every single day, that means yesterday the universe was tidier than today, and a year ago it was even tidier. If you rewind the clock all the way back, roughly 13.8 billion years ago, the universe must have started in a state of extremely, impossibly low entropy. For time to have a direction, the universe had to start with a loaded deck. It had to start in a state of exquisite order. Why? Why did the universe begin in such a highly ordered, unlikely state? If the natural tendency of nature is chaos, how did we start with such perfection? This leads us to the final piece of the puzzle, a concept cosmologists call the past hypothesis. The only reason you can break an egg today, the only reason you can remember yesterday, and the only reason you are alive to read this sentence is because 13.8 billion years ago, the universe began in a state of spectacularly low entropy. Think of the Big Bang not just as an explosion, but as a giant cosmic battery that came fully charged, or a grandfather clock that was wound up tight. For the last 14 billion years, everything that has ever happened, the formation of stars, the burning of the sun, the evolution of life on Earth, and you making toast this morning, is simply the result of that universe unwinding. We are riding the wave of that initial energy dispersing. We are the process of the universe getting messier. In fact, life itself is a clever trick of entropy. You might think, wait, I am a highly organized human being. I am not messy. True, but to keep yourself organized, to stay alive, you generate a huge amount of disorder in your environment. You eat food, ordered energy, and release heat and waste, disordered energy. You are an entropy machine. You are paying for your own order by making the rest of the universe messier. But where does this arrow point? What lies at the end of the road? If the arrow of time is driven by the increase of entropy, then logic dictates that one day entropy will hit its maximum. The battery will run out of charge. The cards will be fully shuffled. This creates a theoretical end state known as the heat death of the universe, or thermal equilibrium. In the far, far future, all stars will burn out, black holes will evaporate, energy will be spread out so thin and so evenly across the cosmos that nothing interesting can ever happen again. No heat can flow, no work can be done, no eggs can be broken. In that state of perfect maximum disorder, the arrow of time will effectively snap. Without change, without the flow from order to disorder, the concepts of past and future lose their meaning. Time, as we know it, will simply stop. The takeaway. It sounds bleak, but there is a beautiful silver lining. We are living in the Goldilocks zone of temporal history. We are not at the beginning, where everything was squeezed tight, and we are not at the end, where everything is cold and dead. We are here, right in the middle, during the vibrant, energetic period where the universe is actively unwinding. Time has a direction because the story isn't over yet. The egg is still breaking, the stars are still burning, and we get to be here to watch it happen. So the next time you feel stressed that time is moving too fast, remember, the flow of time is the only reason you exist at all. Don't fear the arrow, just enjoy the ride.